There's a moment that doesn't announce itself. No argument, no goodbye, just a quiet shift. They still exist in your life, but something is gone. The replies get shorter, the pauses get longer. The warmth you used to feel disappears without explanation. And at first, you ignore it. You tell yourself they're busy, distracted, going through something. But deep down, you feel it. Something has changed. And then it hits you. You're no longer being seen the same way. So you start replaying everything. That conversation, that joke, that message you sent late at night. You search for the exact moment you lost them, as if there must be one. Because if you can find it, maybe you can fix it. Maybe you can go back. But here's the part no one talks about. The real damage isn't their distance. It's what their distance starts to do inside you. You begin to question your tone, your personality, your worth. You shrink just a little, trying to become easier to keep. And without realizing it, you stop standing as yourself and start performing for their attention. That's the moment you feel invisible. Not because they stopped looking, but because you started looking at yourself through their eyes. The silence doesn't erase you, but it can make you forget who you were before it. It's easy to believe the problem is them. They changed. They pulled away. They stopped caring. And maybe that's true. But that's not what's breaking you. What hurts isn't just their absence. It's the meaning you attach to it. Somewhere along the way, their attention became more than attention. It became reassurance. It became proof. It became a mirror you depended on. When they showed up, you felt enough. When they didn't, everything felt uncertain. That's the shift most people miss. You didn't just value them. You let them define your value. So when they stepped back, it didn't feel like distance. It felt like loss of identity, like something inside you was taken, but nothing was taken. You just placed something valuable in a place you couldn't control. This is where Stoicism draws a hard line. You cannot control how someone sees you. You cannot control how long they stay. You cannot control what they feel. But you can control what you believe about yourself when they change. That's the only ground that matters. Because the moment your self-worth depends on someone else's consistency, you've already given away your stability. And people are not stable. They shift, they fade, they move on. So, if your worth moves with them, you will always feel like you're falling. They didn't lower your value, they only exposed where you stored it. There's a reaction most people have when they feel ignored. They lean in. They text more. They try harder. They become more available, hoping to be chosen again. It feels natural, but it slowly destroys your position. Because the more you chase attention, the more you confirm you need it. Stoicism offers a different move, a quiet one. You don't fight. You don't beg. You don't explain your value to someone who stopped looking. You withdraw, not physically, emotionally. You stop investing energy where there is no return. That doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop depending. Instead of asking, why did they stop valuing me? You ask something harder. What part of myself am I about to abandon just to keep them? That question changes everything. Because now the focus shifts. From them back to you. You begin to notice your patterns. The overthinking, the checking, the subtle ways you shrink to stay relevant. And slowly, you interrupt it. You don't send the message. You don't chase the reply. You don't perform. You sit with the discomfort instead. And in that space, something unfamiliar appears. Control, not over them, over yourself. That's the trick. Not controlling the situation, but refusing to let the situation control you. You don't regain power by being seen, you regain it by no longer needing to be. What makes this kind of loss difficult is how quiet it is. There's no clear ending, no final conversation, no closure, just a slow fade. And your mind hates that. So, it fills the silence with stories. They're losing interest. I did something wrong. They found someone better. None of these are facts, but they feel real, because your mind is trying to regain control. But here's the truth. You're not suffering from what happened. You're suffering from resisting what is happening. This is where detachment begins. Not as an escape, but as clarity. You stop arguing with reality. They pulled away. That's the fact. Everything else is interpretation. And once you separate the two, something shifts. You don't need to chase explanations anymore. You don't need to force meaning out of silence. You allow things to be what they are. This is acceptance. Not passive, not weak, but precise. You're no longer reacting to imagined scenarios. You're responding to reality. And in that response, you create space. Space to breathe. Space to think. Space to return to yourself. Detachment lives in that space. It's not about becoming cold. It's about becoming stable. You can still feel the absence, but it no longer defines your direction. You move forward, even without answers. Peace begins the moment you stop asking reality to be different. There's a stage people rarely notice. You're no longer being valued, but you're still trying to earn it back. You give more attention, more patience, more understanding, as if effort can recreate what's already fading. It can't. What you're feeling isn't love anymore. It's obligation, a quiet belief that you owe them something, that if you just say the right thing, do the right thing, become the right version of yourself, they'll return. But look closer. You're not rebuilding a connection. You're paying a debt that doesn't exist. This is emotional debt. And it's expensive. It costs your time, your focus, your sense of stability. You start checking your phone more than your own thoughts. You measure your day by their response, or lack of it. That's the moment you begin to drain yourself. Stoicism cuts this pattern clean. You are not responsible for maintaining someone else's interest. You are not required to prove your worth to someone who stopped recognizing it. So you stop spending, not out of anger, out of awareness. You don't send that extra message. You don't explain what they didn't ask to understand. You don't offer energy where there is no respect. You redirect it into your work, your routine, your mind. And slowly, the leak closes. You're no longer chasing a return. You're rebuilding your balance. Stop investing in places that treat your energy like it's free. There's always a moment where everything tightens. You feel the urge to text, to ask, to break the silence. It feels urgent, almost necessary. Like if you don't act now, you'll lose everything. But that urgency is not truth. It's fear. And if you follow it, you don't fix the situation. You lose your position. Stoicism is built for this exact moment. Not when things are calm, but when your mind is pulling you in 10 directions at once. So you pause. Not because you don't care, but because you care enough to not react blindly. You ask yourself, is this within my control? Or am I trying to control someone else's feelings? Is this a fact? Or just a story I'm telling myself? And most importantly, will this action keep my dignity intact? Those questions slow everything down. They give you space. And in that space, you choose differently. You don't send the emotional message. You don't chase clarity that isn't offered. You don't trade self-respect for temporary relief. Instead, you hold the line, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's quiet, because you understand something most people ignore. One reaction can undo weeks of growth, but one moment of restraint can rebuild your entire foundation. Every time you choose reason over reaction, you take your power back. At some point, something changes. Not around you, inside you. You stop checking your phone as often. You stop expecting their name to appear. You stop building conversations that will never happen. And in that silence, you start to hear yourself again. This is where the real shift begins. You realize something simple, but uncomfortable. Everything you were looking for from them, attention, reassurance, understanding, you were withholding from yourself. So you reverse it. You begin to show up for your own life. You structure your days. You move your body. You clear your space. Not to distract yourself, but to rebuild your center. You listen to your own thoughts without judgment. You sit with your own presence without needing escape. And slowly, something stabilizes. You're no longer waiting to feel valued. You're creating it from your actions, from your discipline, from the way you carry yourself when no one is watching. That's when the dependency fades. Not because they didn't matter, but because you matter again. You become your own reference point, your own standard, your own source. And once that happens, their absence no longer feels like loss. It feels like space. You stop needing to be chosen the moment you finally choose yourself. There's a different kind of strength now. Not loud, not something you need to prove. You're no longer waiting for their attention, no longer adjusting yourself to be chosen. You move without needing to be seen. And that's the shift. Nothing outside has to change for you to feel steady again, because your value is no longer moving with people. It stays with you, even in silence, even in absence. So if this resonates, write it once for yourself. I remain, not as a comment, as a decision. You didn't lose them, you just stopped losing yourself.